Sorry about that.
No worries.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I was just saying that I'm actually in Long Beach, so I'm close to you guys too, I guess. We're all nearby. I have a similar story to both of you, kind of. I started off doing web design probably 20 years ago as well. Back when I actually was making websites, like when I actually had to code them. Then I got into WordPress, and I went to college at LMU for graphic design and advertising. And since then, I've been freelance pretty much the whole time. I had a couple of, I've had in-house jobs with clients. I only worked at an ad agency once, which was a big one. It was at Mal, which had the Apple account at the time, Media Arts Lab, which is in Marina Del Rey. That was cool. I was only there for like a month or two, but since then, I have done a bunch of traveling because web design is pretty location independent type of job. So I've always just had freelance clients for web design, and started a couple companies on my own and got into a lot of like marketing automation, like behavioral email campaigns and stuff like that, which is pretty helpful. And I still do graphic design pretty often. However, my skill set, I feel like at this point is a little bit dated. And I found this meeting because I was excited about the topic of the AI stuff. I've been messing around with Midjourney lately. I don't know if anyone else has been messing with AI, but I know a lot of people are kind of hesitant. I actually think it's pretty exciting as a creative outlet, and just kind of wanted to hear what everyone else was doing. So just here to hang out and listen.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thanks.
Who else wants to jump in? Mark, you want to jump in?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mark Vanderloo. I'm unfortunately not in California. I'm in Nebraska, so I'm in the middle of the United States. But a lot of my background so far is just me trying to get out there because I just got out of college like 2 months ago. Got a bachelor's in studio arts with concentration in media arts. I have no experience with freelancing or graphic design outside of educational purposes, but I feel like I joined this meeting to at least get myself started somewhere. But I've mainly worked with a lot of Adobe products like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, After Effects. And while I have done some graphic design, I haven't done enough to say I've done enough to say that I'm at least good at it, but I could still use some experience. But I'm more prone towards like video editing. I find that a lot of fun. And while I have done a lot of my projects for like classes and whatnot, I've just uploaded a few fun like gameplay videos on my YouTube channel, just for fun, get some more experience with Premiere Pro, stuff like that. That's about it for me.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's totally good. Like, I definitely expect there are going to be a good number of folks joining that are kind of new to the field. So having a broad range of experience is always good. So yeah, definitely welcome. Especially even if you're in Nebraska, it's all good. Yeah. So
most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mo, James, either one of you guys want to?
Okay, yeah, I can go. So my name is Mo. I am new to the group, and I'm also new to design. In the sense that trying to take it seriously. My background is in engineering. So I work as a site reliability engineer, which is like a big word to say. I keep websites up and make sure that they don't go down, or not websites, even like applications or something like that. by working with servers. But I've since university, I've really gotten into modeling, 3D modeling and animations, and sort of tapping into creating like just like designy, sort of simplistic animations that are really visually captivating. So I like that. And so, yeah, I've always wanted to sort of network and meet other people who are into the same field, because being around engineers is not always that fun. As designer, like being creative is. So I predominantly create like animations on, or like 3D modelings on like Blender, Cinema 4D, Houdini sometimes, and I sort of just posted on my Instagram. I have had a couple of freelance experiences. I recently worked with Untel. His name is he's like a Korean musician from South Korea, and I created some visuals for his performance on EBS. So yeah, that was probably like the biggest freelance job that I've had. But other than that, I don't have that much experience in terms of like working every day, being professional. My background's not in design too.
Right. Totally. I understand. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, this is that. So I mean, I think a lot of folks are in the same sort of, situation. Kind of want to veer into the field and need some other folks to talk to. So that's great. James, do you want to?
Yeah, hi. My name is James McLean. I live in Los Angeles, California. I have a theater degree and I have an electronics degree, and I've loved computers and technology since I was like 9. And I'm 54 right now. I know I'm looking at myself. I don't look it, especially with this dopey smile on my face. I look younger, but yeah, at 54 now, and struggling to get by. I've always dreamed of making my own video games and stuff like that. So that kind of pulled me. Yeah, Mark's giving me a thumbs up. Thanks, Mark. That pulled me into getting more artsy, although I've never been far away from art. As I said, I have a theater degree. And then I found, the new AI art creation tools, and I found Redbubble. So if I might share my screen.
Yeah, for sure.
See if this will work. It's moving along there. Can everybody see this?
Oh, wow.
Yep.
This is my Redbubble store. I go by the handle Shakespeare1212, and I made this collage at the top from elements of like 3 or 4 of my different designs. I primarily work with Corel Painter for like the actual digital wand on tablet type stuff. But a lot of this stuff started with being generated by an AI bot like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, or I just got into Leonardo.ai now. But you can see this really gets cool. And it's so quick and easy now. I mean, look at this piece. I didn't come up with any of this composition or any of this lighting. I just put in a prompt like something like Wolf Witch of the Woods or something like that. And I wish I could get one that's, could you guys see, is that big enough?
Yeah.
Dang it. I want to, let me show like that. Extra large. Yeah, so people can buy creations that have your designs on them from Redbubble, and you can take anywhere from a 5% profit off the top to 20%, and almost everything is handled for you. They'll do the shipping. They'll even handle returns and stuff like that. and then your design can go on all these different products, and you're ready to rock and roll as long as you can bring customers in. The SEO is really hard. The hard part, search engine optimization, or building your brand and your community, so that right off the bat, as an unknown, I can't, like, I can try to search for even my own artist name, and it used to be that even directly targeting me like that, nothing came up. I think things are starting to come up now. But you see, this isn't my stuff. This isn't mine, not mine, not mine. Like, I used my very own handle name. Why are my designs not coming up? So that's a problem. I wonder if anybody has a solution to that.
That's
Go
weird. Yeah.
back to my shop over here, and there are my designs. And you can create categories. I don't want to turn this into a pitch session for Redbubble itself, but this is what I'm about right now, so it's a good introduction to me too. Here's my bio, and my URL is Shakespeare1212.redbubble.com.
Interesting. So it's basically kind of like Printful or like a platform like that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I probably will go out and be on Teespring and T Nation soon. But this has products beyond just t-shirts and other clothing. It has coffee mugs and tumblers and bath mats, and God, it's almost like you name it. Journals and notebooks, and it's really incredible. Hats and scarves, pillows. If they've really mastered somehow, their technologists automatically can take almost anything you can put into digital format and put it on their products. I recommend, if you want to get into it, just using a very, very high resolution product, because everything on there has a different form factor, aspect ratio, and some of them go down to really, really small, like just one little patch on top of a baseball cap, or it can be as large as a shower curtain. So I tend to upscale my designs to 11,100 pixels by 11,100 pixels, and that works out very well. The other tip I would say, if you want to get into it, is if you have text that you want to make sure gets onto the design, then don't put it on the bottom, because a lot of the aspect ratios have a very rectangular bent to them. So if you have important text, you want to not put it at the bottom, put it up so it gets above the lower border on a lot of the items that they have for sale there.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing. Hey, you want to stop presenting, because we're seeing it. I'm seeing
There you go.
Hall of Mirrors. Yeah, actually, yeah. Thanks for sharing. Basically, again, as I mentioned, the point of the group is for us to sort of network and share. Right now, obviously, this is our first meeting, so we'll come up with some more things that we'll talk about. As I mentioned, I also have a group for web developers, and at various times we may collaborate and bring the groups together. But I want this group to really focus on graphic design, web design, UX, UI design, related fields like that. So. Again, what we want to talk about today is AI, and whether AI is going to be a challenge for graphic designers to get past, as far as are the AI tools going to start replacing jobs in that field. I actually had a video. It's a short video that we could watch that will kind of maybe spark the conversation. It's only about 7 minutes or so. So I figure I'll put the video on. We'll watch the video. It talks about maybe you'll learn something about some of the tools that are out there, and then we can kind of discuss from there. So let me put that on. Does anybody else want to mention anything before I do that? All right, where are we at? That. Share that.
Design is changing pretty fast, and so are the free tools that are being used to make new and exciting graphic designs. But instead of falling behind, you can actually learn about some really useful tools in our graphic design industry that are making huge waves and huge changes. First up, something you've probably heard about already, and that's ChatGPT. Sure, this thing can tell me how to make a cake with easy to follow instructions, or maybe how to write a 500-word apology in a matter of just a few seconds. But how can graphic designers actually benefit from this thing? Firstly, whenever you're making a mock-up or a design that uses lorem ipsum placeholder text, instead you can just use ChatGPT to write, say for example, 100 words about computer science. And bingo, you have some placeholder text that is not only relevant, but also grammatically correct. Also, you can use ChatGPT to write graphic design briefs, emails to potential clients, contracts, and so on. For contracts, emails, and briefs and so on, I suggest you use this as a kind of a baseline and then expand upon it in your own words. Next up, something that's kind of like multiple different design tools mixed into one huge thing, and that is Hotpot AI. I am going to give some blunt opinions on artificial intelligence in the design world at the end of today's video. There's a lot of heated, angry, and worried designers out there.
Robots took my jobs.
AI is art theft. But right now, check this out. Hotpot has an art generator like DALL-E or Midjourney, a custom head generator, a tool that removes objects from backgrounds, something that writes content, a picture colorizer, a background remover, picture restorer and upscaler, art personalizer, whatever that is, a language translator, a color scheme generator, an icon resizer, and while we're here, free icons. I mean, why not? And finally, a file converter. It doesn't take a genius to see how this is going to be helpful for designers. And I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what the future holds for this kind of tool. Is it a future that is positive or one where I want to actually be in? Which we will get to later. But yeah, for now, let's check this out. Namelix is a great tool for those who want to come up with a relevant brand name for their company. Or if you're working on a client who is starting a new brand, you can also use this maybe to think up a website domain name, a social media account name, and so on. Basically, you just type in relevant keywords to the business. So here, let's say I'm launching a clothing brand that wants to sell urban style clothing. You can then choose the kind of style names you want, maybe just in real words, or maybe just a totally made up word that's not in the dictionary. But let's shoot for all styles. And I like to use a low randomness on this selection here, and that's so everything remains targeted to the business and the keywords. And then lastly, we need to put in a sentence that describes what the business does. And scrolling through the results, of course, there's going to be some obvious misses and mishaps, but there are some really decent ones actually, such as maybe this one here. Or what about this one for an urban style clothing brand? And as I said earlier, it might be wise to use this as a kind of a starting point and then just branch off in your own process. Also, it's probably obvious to totally ignore the placeholder logos. We're just here for the name suggestions. When someone works full-time for themselves, they likely realize just how important time is. It's probably your most useful asset. And so as a designer, I'm always trying to save time and look for ways to save more time. And the next tool generates profile pictures for you just at one click. Just upload your image and away you go. I'm not too sure how generic these are going to be. And by that, I mean, it has a new category here, but you might end up coming across someone else online who has the same background as you do in the future. But it's pretty cool nonetheless. Recently, Midjourney had an epic upgrade, and it's pretty insane what it's capable of as of January 2023. And as a graphic designer, I personally use it to generate backgrounds for designs, elements for my thumbnails, and also to create the base for mockups. And again, simply, it just saves loads of time. Sure, I could spend time loading up my camera settings, creating the perfect shots and backdrop, take multiple different shots from different angles, then change the levels and the lighting in Photoshop, and then finally I'll have a base for my mockup ready. Or I could type in some prompts into Midjourney. This is the power of AI, and it's the current world that we live in. And that brings me on to my personal thoughts about the design world in 2023 and beyond. Firstly, some people suggest that Midjourney is art theft. Well, actually, I did some research into this, and this is what I found. No images are stored or copied with Midjourney. The images, which anyone could find on Google Image Search, were used to teach the computer what objects and art styles look like, rather than totally ripping off the works. Essentially, the algorithms learned various different styles instead of actually using the works. This is what I managed to find on the subject, and if you actually have different evidence or opinions, please feel free to post them in the comment section below. But there is something else that is quite important about this. The evolution of artificial intelligence and machine learning is accelerating at lightning speeds. I'm sure you can see it too. The technology is truly out of the bag at this point, and there's just no going back. If that is the case, which it is, there's nothing I or you can do to change that fact. Instead of being angry and frustrated, it's probably time to learn how to use these tools and leverage them to make more money and to get to where you want to be as a designer. Take, for example, this guy here. He used a ChatGPT and Midjourney to generate and publish a children's book in just 2 days. Sure, the illustrations are pretty different on each page and each example, but this is just the start of this technology. Think about ways that you can use these tools to save time and to make money, because this is 2023 and this is the current state of the world. I've still yet to find an AI that can create killer typography layouts and which understands complex layouts, but I'm sure it's going to happen one way or another. And also, I actually think there's always going to be a need or a market for human-made design. The likelihood is that brands who want to hire people who are human designers will pay more for that, but there'll be less of those designers. But yeah, instead of seeing the current situation as being negative, try and see the positives in it and then use it to your advantage. And if you want to learn some other design techniques that will truly leverage your designs, just click that video on screen. And until next time, guys, design your future today. Peace.
All right.
The world of graphic change
Just,
pretty fast, and so are the free tools that are being exciting.
okay.
What was Omar? What was his name? His website
Oh,
or his YouTube?
let's see. Let me pull it up. Let me see. Yes, it's
I found one. Okay, go ahead.
no, it's coming. It's just loading kind of slow. What were you saying?
I was just going to mention another YouTube site.
Oh, his name was it's Satori. It's Satori Graphics. That's the name of the channel. Satori Graphics.
Okay.
So yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've got certainly have some of my own thoughts on it. I mean, I guess the tools were pretty good. I guess the way I kind of look at the tools, my initial thoughts are that they can, these are more things that can help graphic designers work more efficiently. I mean, I'm not sure if these are necessarily going to replace jobs. I mean, certainly it might, but I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on or has maybe used any of the tools that were mentioned. Does anybody have any experience with these? Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Sorry. I'll go. So I've been a designer for 20 years, and I've drawn all my own stuff, written all my own stuff. So I can't say that I'm not, when I see something like what James did, you didn't really draw it, you didn't illustrate it. So I don't really, I don't know. I don't want to, I don't really
Go ahead, bring it
look
on.
at yeah, I don't really look at you as a designer or an illustrator. Typing in the words "witch," "forest woman," or whatever does not make you a designer or an illustrator. That said, it's not going away, and I do want to use it and use it. I imagine it to speed the production process. I have used it. I used ChatGPT. I had a song that I wanted to write for years. It's like a parody song, and I typed in the parameters, and it actually was a really good song. And I would probably use it. So, but I'm not a songwriter. And then I'm trying to like look and watch everything. So the website or the YouTube channel I saw is
But
it's called The Corridor.
sorry,
It's called the
if you're not a songwriter and a song was written, then the AI bot was the songwriter, right? Or
Yeah, I know, but I'm not.
It's-
Yeah. So yeah, I'm. Let me just finish. So I'm going to use these tools. I just, you know, yeah, it's weird. It's a murky area because I'm not a songwriter. I'm not going to go out and write a song. I can't sing the song. I did it as an experiment. But you're putting your stuff out there and you're selling it, which is fine. It's going to happen. It's not going anywhere. I just want to be like transparent in my feelings because I have been a designer my entire career and drawn things and spent painstaking hours drawing. And so to see something like that, it's I don't feel that the work's been done there. So I'll just put that out there and we can debate later.
Okay.
But there's a group called the Corridor Crew. They're the YouTube channel I mentioned, and you should check them out. They actually do visual effects, but you know, they kind of talk about the future and where it's headed. And it's really going to be a production tool to speed the process. Like he was saying at the end there, I can see that. What I'm really scared and worried about is just like how boring everything is going to be. Is it going to be super boring? Is it everything going to look alike? You might have, James, a really hard time distinguishing yourself from everyone else if you're pulling it from these algorithms. So yeah, I just, you know, I want to get my soapbox a little bit because I've done this for a while, but it's not going away. I need to know how to use it. And I appreciate this group and sharing that stuff. And I do have some advice, James, on other sites that you can put your stuff on. There's a whole bunch. I like the idea of fulfillment, digital fulfillment, where you don't do anything. There's a whole bunch of those sites, and I've investigated that. I'd share some with you, but that's all I got for now.
Yeah.
I can speak to some of that if you want. There's been a couple questions. The first one was, do we think any jobs are going to be replaced? I would say the only people in this case, this particular case of like the Midjourney situation would be, you know, a famous artist who's a compositor and a 3D expert, you know, somebody like Beeple on Instagram. I don't know if you know who that is, but like, you know, if you looked at a Beeple piece of art a year ago, you'd be saying, oh my God, this guy is a genius. This is incredible. And if you look at one today, you would be comparing it to the AI. And I have friends who are 3D compositors and motion graphics artists and people who have been doing this for decades. And even looking at, you know, a Midjourney generated render, it looks 10 times more amazing than even the best expert in the world in that field can do. And it takes, you know, seconds to make it. So if you are in that particular niche, which is very specific and very specialized, there's something to be said about how quickly the AI can do it, but the specifics of what it's outputting is not anywhere near the specifics of what happens in a high budget production environment. So like what is happening now is there's this technology that exists, but the struggle that happens when you try to get specific, it becomes a language game because now you're wrestling with this machine, trying to feed it words to do exactly what you want it to do, and it's never going to do that. So I have a client who I was trying to make a very specific image for to avoid having to do a photo shoot. And they wanted this kind of like a mature, like not an elder couple, but like a mature couple dancing in a ballroom. And the guy's wearing a tuxedo and the girl's wearing a red dress, and they're doing a dip move, and both of their eyes are looking at the camera. And Jesus Christ, like I spent hours and hours and hours trying to get that combination of things to happen, and typing all sorts of sentences and all sorts of different combinations and different orders. I can show it to you if you want. And
Yeah,
let's just see if this window works. So, where did we go? I got a bunch of these, and these are great. Can you see this or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, for an AI generated image, obviously this stuff looks fantastic. Like we can't be mad about this. The fact that we can do it so quickly is super exciting. But you'll see like the AI will select one piece of your prompt, whether it's eyes to camera or the dancing part or the dip or whatever, and it won't do everything all at once. So, I mean, at this point, I don't think that we're in any kind of huge dire straits. However, to be able to make something like this image right here in just, a couple
30
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. But, in this particular prompt, it's really cool also, I want to say, how much people are sharing their prompts with each other. Like this doesn't seem like it's like a gatekeeping situation between artists, because we all know that it's kind of a hack, like everyone's like, oh, try this. So like this prompt has like 80 words in it. And like, these are all words from people who are specialists in some kind of a field, like you can actually tell the AI what kind of lens you want it to shoot on. You can use camera types. You can use, tracing ambient occlusion. These are like 3D words, and people are sharing that. There's Reddit subreddits for like Midjourney, and people will just straight up tell you, this is what I did, here's what I did. And also if you look at anybody's public facing page, it'll show you the entire prompt. So this is like something that I stole from somebody else. I stole this whole part, vibrant and nostalgic futuristic hexagon cityscape being inundated by 1,000-foot tsunami with detailed neon lights. Like that's the creative part. Like I taught my mom how to do this. She's 78. And I was like, here, I set up Discord on her phone and I gave it to her, and she's been an artist her whole life or whatever. But I was like, what do you want to make? And I've said this to a million people, like, what do you want to make? And they'd be like, oh, I don't know. And so the creativity is like what's inside of you as a creative. Like, but now I think what's weird and interesting about this is that visual output is a result of text input. So like we have to think about it and use like language skills and combinations of very obscure words that come up with like really awesome output. So like it's just a different tool. I've generated like background patterns for art projects. Like this, I was trying to do a Mona Lisa with a pig's face, and I put the pig like on her chest. You know what I mean? Like it's still very, very stupid. And there's a million things that does wrong. But I think that like it's just an exciting time, and in regards to the like selling it aspect, I think that's a gimmick that's going to go away very quickly, because there's no barrier to entry to doing this. And I think people are going to figure that out if they don't already know very quickly. So like there has to still be a why behind everything that everybody does in the art world. There has to be a story. There has to be branding. It's just like starting a brand for any other company in the world. It's like, okay, if my concept is ayahuasca pug dogs, then all of my art should be like this, or ayahuasca pets or something. There you have a brand, ayahuascapets.com. It's very specific. It's very funny. I want to have a giant full body crew neck print with ayahuasca dogs all over it. Then it's like, okay, I would pay $120 for that or whatever. If somebody didn't know how to make it in Midjourney, which they probably don't, then I think people would start buying stuff like that. But otherwise, like, I don't think that it's any sort of super easy get rich quick time. If you want to go through the whole process of like the print on demand Amazon books, you can totally do that. And it's super fast. I made this page. This is like the first day I did this. I got all excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to make all these hot chicks. And I'm going to put a Chat GPT background story. Now I just have a VA. I have the girl in Mexico who works for me for another business. And I just send her all my Midjourney artwork, just like JPEGs. And she'll go to Chat GPT and write like a full on backstory of the character. And she'll upload 3 a day. But at the same time, you know, this has 18 likes. Like, nobody gives a shit, because really there's no point to any of it other than like, it's cool if you're into like random fantasy chicks and landscapes. It's easy to make this exist, but you're never going to get past the problem of like, how do I do marketing? How do I do branding? How do I do like creative storytelling, et cetera, et cetera. So like, that problem is never going to go away. I think that we're just really lucky that it's really easy to be really creative really fast. And it's like, it's taking.
I kind of agree. I think this is like Andy Warhol's saying that we're all going to be famous for 15 minutes, but this is on steroids. So now maybe we're all going to only be famous for 15 seconds.
Well, maybe not. If you create the funniest, craziest fucking character in the world, then that character is still funny, you know, like you can still make something amazing. It's not like that has less value.
Yeah, you could take the other argument. We might be at an incredible watershed moment of creativity. I mean, this is kind of like, could kind of like be the invention of the printing press. Where,
yeah, this is very early. Like, I'm sure in the future we're gonna put on some augmented reality goggles and think of anything, and we're gonna be like walking through some Japanese forest, you know, or whatever. Like,
let me kind of defend myself a little bit.
I'm not attacking you at all.
No, you are, but just let me talk a little bit about my process. You talked a little bit about yours. This no. So I'll share my screen again here. This one. Okay, are people seeing this?
Yeah.
So this piece here, the unicorn and the forest was made by Midjourney, an AI art bot, and I asked for a black unicorn coming out of a misty forest. And as far as that part goes, yeah, that's all I had to do. But the AI bots currently are terrible with text, and they're terrible with fingers. And they used to be terrible with eyes, but that has improved a great deal recently. So they're much better with faces and eyes than they used to be. But I added this little swirl here with a brush in Corel Painter, and I added this text and gave it the perspective that it has here with Corel Painter as well. So I composited all those together, and then I had to resize it in Corel Painter. Right now, the native images that come out of the AIs are only about 512 by 512 pixels generally. Leonardo does like 766 or something like that natively. So you always have to kind of upscale it if you're going to take it to print somewhere.
You can change the resolutions and the aspect ratios on Midjourney and the prompts.
No, you can't go too far though before it actually runs out of memory and resources though, or takes forever. Here's another design where I added my own text. And yeah, you're for the real artwork, you're not so much an artist or a graphic designer, but a curator. You just like have the thing create 4, 5 to 8 images for you, and then you pick the best, and then you tell it to enhance on that, maybe do 4 more generations, and then you pick the best of those, and on you go. one group of people or two groups of people that maybe have their jobs currently more at risk than designers and artists is models.
I disagree. I would say writers. The chat
Writers.
GPT thing is really throwing a wrench in a lot of the creative writing skill set. Even though, you know, it can't come up with the ideas on its own, it's so
Yeah,
easy
you only have to
bypass
give it a kernel of an idea and bam, it
to
goes.
bypass like a copywriter for a website, you know, or just like writing the little chunks of text. It's just so
Yeah.
crazy fast that it's sad for that type of writing for sure.
Here's an example of some more difficult digital painting that I had to do. You see kind of here the flaw on this dragon's claw there, how that one is like fat. Well, when this started out, he had like 8 fingers there. And this one over here too, you guys have the sophisticated eye. You can see the little smudge there. That's where another foot, another little toe used to be. I guess it would be a claw. That's his foreclaw. And in the back as well, there were extra digits all over the place. So I had to get in there and retouch digitally to make him look more presentable. And sometimes it'll give things extra tails, but you don't have to like totally rely on like describing what you want to it all the time. It does spit out a digital picture, so you can then go and take that digital picture into classical photo editing tools and use your other artist skills on that. This main collage here wasn't put together by getting more and more text prompts. It was, this girl here was one text prompt, the Bitcoin was another text prompt, the turtle a third, and this other fashion model here with the colorful hair a fourth. And then this splurge of color here, that's all just digital paintbrushing. And then they were all collaged together in a paint program. I don't use Photoshop like most people do. I love Corel Painter myself because it's a lot cheaper and it's very, very powerful still.
Yeah, I'm seeing it's kind of a parallel in a way between this and the copywriting. The copywriting, as Rick was mentioning, because you can, I was playing around with chat GPT, writing poems and that sort of thing, right? So I just ask it to write a poem, and it would write a poem, and obviously, there were problems with some of the language, and so you would basically just need to go in there and copy edit it essentially. But and I see that's a pretty good a kind of parallel between that and Midjourney, because it seems like in a way it's taken away in a way maybe it's even kind of engineering people as far as like what skills are now going to be needed. I mean, maybe it makes certain things obsolete, the ability to create these 3D graphics obsolete. And then you basically just need to, as you mentioned, just go in and make edits. Mark
has something.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, because I can understand how like simple it is to just type something in, then just have it create something, but it doesn't have that sort of human touch to it. So I'm actually glad, James, that you pointed out that you had to manually doctor some of the photos, and that's what I think is like a perfect use for like AI art. Is I think it's more of like a good way to inspire you, and then just a good way to build off that inspiration.
Yeah, I agree.
Whatever it is, it's a freight train that's coming for a lot of industries, and you could and I understand the strong emotions. If I were in your shoes, or any person who's already working as an artist and making a good check every week, I'd be scared and I would be resentful.
I don't think we're pretty excited.
No, yeah, I'm not scared. It is what it is, and it's going to change. So all the things that you're saying, James, like adding new toes and all that, you're not going to have to do that. It's learning exponentially every day. And so it's just going to get more and more, it's going to get better every day. And so my biggest fear is just, Hollywood movies are already cookie cutter, and you know, certain books are already cookie cutter. What's the mass media going to be? And there's already so many channels and so many different things. It's really kind of, what's it going to be? What's that future going to look like?
I
You know,
think-
and how we're gonna,
I don't think it's going to be any different. I think it's just going to be more imaginative. Like we're still going to have to
Yeah.
dream up the Avatar world, or we're still going to have to dream
Mhm.
up, you know, the
Yeah,
Pinocchio
yeah.
story. It's just easier to like place it, you know, like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
creativity is
already
not going away.
experiencing that.
The creativity
Yeah.
is like expanding, and it's like more accessible to more people, because I'm sure a lot of the people who are making Midjourney art have zero artistic skill sets on a computer, but they might be really creative in their mind, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
So it's
that's
like,
true.
I remember a Christmas around 1975 or something like that, and my uncle was more into computers than I was at the time, and he brought in a Christmas card that was just created on a dot matrix printer and using ASCII characters to make a little
I love that.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer next to a Christmas tree that was made out of
Yeah.
at symbols, and he was like, "Oh, look at this! This is the coolest thing."
That's what you should sell on your sweatshirts.
If I could find that, I probably could.
I would
Um,
buy that.
Well, you got to
But-
create it, James. You got to type in the prompt.
Yeah, I
That's a
do.
good one. Exactly. A Christmas tree made out of that signs.
But the
That's
point is,
amazing.
we've already gone through lots of these leaps and jumps in the creativity and the expressiveness of computers in our lifetimes.
Yeah,
There's
that's a
nothing
really good analogy, James.
futile.
I mean, because that was cool to me, because it wasn't, you know, part of my reticence is like all the hard work I put in my entire career, but I'm on Rick's wavelength about, it's not going away. You got to utilize it. That's why I joined this group. That's why I want to share,
You're gonna have fun once you start messing around with it.
Oh, I already have. I mean, just
Yeah,
writing
yeah.
writing that song, and then I just did
Yeah.
the prompt and everything. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
We feel for you. Feel for me a bit too, though, because I've got all this creativity in my head that I want to get out there into the world, and I do sit and I try to develop my natural art skills, even standard mediums like water paints and markers and stuff. But to bring in money, I'm a Lyft driver and an Uber driver, and it takes 6 hours a day, almost every day of the week, almost every week, and I make $100 a day. I would love to just get one art piece out there and score some $5,000 NFT. Is it
Yeah.
too much to ask?
You got to put yourself in there more, James. Unless you're really into the stuff that you were showing me,
You have to hone in the concept.
I love the stuff I was showing you. I'm
Okay,
a little
but-
hurt that you said I wasn't an artist or a graphic designer, really,
Well,
right?
I'm interested to see what it's going to
that's
do.
a whole other debate. But put your own self into it. Put what you're going through
Yeah, you have
into
to
it, because
come up with a why.
have you guys ever heard of this artist Nick Cave? He's a singer songwriter. You might not have heard of him.
No.
Someone he does this weekly thing. He's a British guy. Actually, he's Australian, but he lives in Britain, and he does this weekly chat thing where he responds to different people that send him the messages. And some guy said write a Nick Cave song to Chat GPT, and they wrote it. And his response was really cool and really eloquent, coming from an artist standpoint. And can I read it? I mean, you think it's like whatever, but
Unless you're infringing on his copyright, go ahead.
no, I'm reading his words. So it was this is kind of my thought. This encapsulated what I thought. And so he says, what makes a great song great is not its close resemblance to a recognizable work. Writing a good song is not mimicry or replication or pastiche. It is the opposite. It is the act of self-murder that destroys all one has strived to produce in the past. It is those dangerous, heart-stopping departures that catapult the artist beyond the limit of what he or she recognizes as their own self. This is part of the authentic creative struggle that precedes the invention of a unique lyric or actual value. It is the breathless confrontation with one's vulnerability, one's perilousness, one's smallness, pitted against a sense of sudden, shocking discovery. He's a pretty, as you can see, he's a pretty melodramatic guy, but he's a great songwriter. If you've ever listened to him, he's been around for 40 years. My point being just, I would get more out of your art, James, if you told me all about being a Lyft driver or somehow put that into it. You might have a whole other market based on all this shit that you've gone through in your whole life. You know, but if you're inspired by the stuff you're inspired by, that I'm not diminishing that, because that's what you're into.
I take your point, but you can probably see in the stuff that I've put up there. All right. I love fantasy. I love dark fantasy. I love Dungeons and Dragons. And I was a DM in my teenage years. And so that stuff is there. And my father was an alcoholic and left us when I was about 7, but he was never violent with us. And, you know, I don't have a huge reservoir of pain to draw on and spill all over the page like some people might have. I prefer to like make the world a more colorful, happy place.
Yeah, no, I mean, it might not have been the best example to pull that guy up, but it was more about, you know, the process of creation and where it comes from. And kind of back to Rick's point.
It reminds me of the Rolling Stones song, "If I Could Dig Down Deep in My Heart, Spill It All Over the
This is what I would
stage,
suggest.
would
I
it
would suggest
satisfy
maybe
you?
for everybody, if you're
I don't
interested in
buy you."
AI, is to start a brand new Instagram account and only follow AI accounts so you can see what other people are doing, because you'll quickly realize that what you typed is not special at all. Like the first things that I made in Midjourney that I thought were amazing that I started posting on Instagram, I realized that a whole bunch of other people had the same idea and they produced the same style image. And that's like, okay, so how can I iterate on that to make it better? And then I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then I've started following these accounts and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And I iterate and I iterate. And what I see, James, I see that the ideas on your page are all completely separate ideas. So there's no unifying theme. And I feel like what I think was trying to be said just now is like coming up with the concept of the art itself. Because if you wanted to Google like unicorn poster, I'm sure there's 10 million that exist. So why is somebody going to seek out your store to spend the money on yours? That's the thing, is it's just not unique. Even if it's the first time you made it, it's probably the millionth time somebody else has made it.
But it says unique. It's all about uniqueness.
No, if you're gonna try to sell it, who's gonna buy it? You know, you got to make something that's.
According to my
unique.
poster, I'm unique, and I'll never forget it.
I love you, and I love your poster, but I wouldn't try to make a business model out of it because that's been done. You know, if you start looking at what people are doing with these AI accounts on Instagram, it's insane. And
I know, Rick. I recommend everybody here get on Facebook and look up the Facebook sharing groups about AI art. There, in particular, there's a woman named Edith Black Quackenbush. My God, her stuff is just insane on another level. And she does it mostly with prompts, like most of us. She also probably touches it up a little bit here and there, but I don't know how. She's like, you know, the AI whisperer. She gets stuff out of these bots that no one else gets.
It just occurs to me that it's going to completely erode the actual natural talent that people have as far as
for sure,
being able to create these things. And there's not going to be any incentive to learn this, and there's not going to be any incentive to teach it.
I think I disagree.
Yeah.
I think the topic of AI and artists is sort of like a web designer and someone that can't afford one and goes to Wix or goes to WordPress and gets a template on Squarespace. It's like there's a clear difference in the websites that you'll get from there, even if they're great and it's what you need at that time. But when you spend a little bit extra and you have someone who spent time and effort and education and they are passionate about it, it just bleeds through. And
I think he's got the desire to learn,
always rises to the top. I think I've never really used I haven't used Midjourney at all. I've used ChatGPT just a little bit. But I've never made like an image or anything out of it. And I think the cool part about these tools is that it's just one more thing to add into your belt, in the sense that there's a lot of people in these days, whether it's like content creators or someone that's trying to get their brand off the ground, and they have to literally be every person. They have to be their own marketer, they have to be their own artist, they have to be, and it's like they can't really focus on just being creative. You know, it's like if I'm a watercolor artist, painter, I want to just do the art, the watercoloring. I don't want to be a marketer. I don't want to figure out why my website's so slow and why it's not optimized for mobile. I want to just make the art. And so I think, having ChatGPT sort of like give you a social media strategy for how often to post, what to post, or maybe Midjourney is able to just like generate an image so that you can keep up with being successful on social media, even if it's not, maybe it's like a derivative of your own art.
You can also, and maybe you guys already know this, but you can also train the AI bots with your own style.
So maybe you train your own art.
If you are a watercolorist, you can make like 20 of your own flowers and then feed them into an AI trained bot, and then tell it to make 300 of those same style flowers. And that's exactly what it'll do.
Yeah, maybe you train
everybody's wincing about that.
No, that's what the Corridor Crew guys talk about. Maybe
you train on your own art, and then you sort of like have a post for a week or so. You have a great caption that's targeting the search engine in the best way. But you're able to meet those objectives of being that one-man band that you wouldn't have if you have a marketing team and advertise. Like you can meet those specific goals. But I do think that it is different from art, and I think a lot of the conversation a lot of times is sort of similar to like a hip-hop artist, and like, should rappers write their own raps, or like, should singers be able to actually sing? It's sort of that same thing. And so it's like, okay, if we have a lot of tools to make people who can't sing and make them pop stars by putting them in front of everyone. But we know that there's a difference between like a Celine Dion and like a Britney Spears, right? So it's like, we know that there's a difference. We don't really compare them. They're great in their own sense, but they're not the same type of artists, right? So it's like, if you're a rapper and you don't write raps, that's fine. Just be over there though, because rappers write raps, or artists are like, do the art. And so I think the cream will always just rise to the top. I think as everything does become the same, there's always this sort of movement to sort of seek out something that's different. So people who love cinema, they can easily see bad films, right? If the only thing they can see in a theater is like Marvel and Disney type movies, then they are more inclined to go to a Sundance Film Festival or Cannes Film Festival to seek out that like artistic.
It's like buying vinyl records or something, or shooting on film. Like, the vintage stuff's never gonna go away. The thing that I did agree with Omari is like, are kids gonna be less inspired to learn how to paint? Or are kids gonna be less inspired to learn how to do these like old school mediums if they're just like, oh, I can just type in like bird flying and then I get it. So hopefully that doesn't die off, and it probably won't.
Well, I think it will, to a sense. It's got to,
a little
right?
bit, but
how many of us here still have 12 phone numbers memorized in their brain? None, because our cell phone now has the numbers in the directory. We don't have to. So if you don't have to do something to achieve the end goal, then why would you do it?
That's the part that scares me, honestly.
It's a parenting thing. If your parents are gonna let you play with paint instead of an iPad, that's where it all begins.
Yeah.
And where would you go to school to learn that, right? Like, that's the thing too. The schools are going to go, probably won't be a lot of.
The funniest thing that I've been adding to the end of my prompts is in the style of Italian master painters. And that's just such a funny thing, because it's like, imagine at one time that was like the pinnacle achievement, being a master painter, and now you just add that to the end of anything, like a duck.
Yeah.
Something that I just thought of that's going to be really interesting is copyright. and say you make $1 million, James, and someone's going to come out of the woodwork and they're going to go, that looks just like my unicorn. How are they going to determine that your unicorn was unique to their unicorn when they're both created by AI?
Yeah, and that's why I think just having AI is sort of a
Oh, it will be.
well,
It will be though.
think
The,
of
the
AI
AI does create different creations each and every time.
But
They may be similar, they may have the same kind of style, but that can be said about a lot of art. You know, this is
but it's going to happen, especially when money's involved. Look at all the lawsuits where someone rips off a Marvin Gaye song, and it goes to court. It's happening all
yeah.
the time. I'm just
On the other
I'm not
hand,
saying it's going to happen to you. I'm just saying, I'm asking the question.
that's a great problem to have, and also I think I could be a pretty good negotiator in that regard. And I'm an ethical guy. If someone really has a point that I rip them off, I would try to say, hey, okay, can I cut you in? Can I give you 60% of the royalties? And let's not go to court. Let's not shut this gravy train down. Let's work together.
Yeah, I'm not talking about you as an individual. I'm talking about just the world and what it's going to become.
Yeah.
Another
Another issue in that vein, there's a woman on one of the Facebook groups, and she used AI to create a comic book, as you saw in that video. It's not a children's book, but it's a complete like comic book, a story about science fiction and such like that. But the U.S. Copyright Office won't protect that work that she created because they're saying she didn't put enough creative effort into it. So it's not
interesting.
a copyrightable creation, and she's fighting them on that because she did put a lot of time and effort. The AI bot didn't do any of the layout for her or laying up of the pages for her. It didn't write any of the dialogue in this case, although we know it could have. But they're coming back at her like, oh, give us this documentation, give us this documentation, give us that documentation. Whereas, someone who had just written a book out of their own typewriter, they would have been given their copyright just like that. So yeah, these are issues. And they also talked about how prompts are shared on the sharing websites. Two ways around that. In the case of Midjourney, you can pay an extra fee, and you can have your own private studio where your prompts are kept secret. And there is a lot of generosity, as Rick talked about, with sharing prompts. On the other hand, some people are very selfish with their prompts, and there are sites that are almost like Napster, where you can purchase a prompt for a reasonable fee, like $199 or $350. So they're realizing you're not paying $1,000 for a completed oil painting, but it is like a Napster or a iTunes thing, where they'll show you the picture first, but you don't see the prompt until you put in your credit card and give them $1.50 or $2.50 or whatever they want to try to draw for it.
Hey guys, we're running a little bit over. We're going to cut the meeting, but this is a great conversation, and I think we should probably continue next week. So I'm more than happy to start it up a new one next week.
Oh, and I just want to say I don't have anything against Britney Spears those are examples. so
I
just,
Yeah,
I was just
Yeah,
saying
right.
like there's a difference, and I think some artists aren't like people who are really into whatever that field are not going to be interested in something that's generated, and
for sure.
they always see something that's generated versus something that someone actually put their heart into.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, totally.
Just
So just a heads up. I put a link there in the chat. So if you guys want to, if you guys are on LinkedIn, you can go ahead and join that group there. I just created, and we'll start. We'll do it next week sometime. So anybody, I didn't want to cut anybody off. Does anybody have any
I just have some
Last-
final
yeah.
thoughts, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think that's why. That's why I try to see like both sides. Like, yeah, AI can like create stuff just with like a few prompts and whatnot, but I think what will really set apart like generated stuff with it, like what people put their heart and soul in, is that sort of human touch, because just use it. And that's why I think from my perspective, if kids keep using AI as a means to express their creativity, it gets kind of boring, and it sort of encourages that feeling of, why can't I do that myself?
True. Very true. Very true. Cool. I'm actually also just a heads up. I'm going to share this video to the LinkedIn as well. So check it out. You know, the recording there. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. It's great meeting you guys. Hopefully you guys can join again next week. I'll put the new meeting up. And till then, have a great weekend. And
Yes.
take it.
Nice to meet you guys.
Bye.
It's fun meeting you all. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Ciao.